Hi, I'm Michelle, and thank you for joining us for part 2 of the series called Undone. And so in verse 17, it starts out where Jesus has arrived on the scene, and there are lots of people there comforting the family because Lazarus has been dead 4 days. Let's look at it here in verse 21. And Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died." My brother wouldn't have died. They are words of disappointment in Jesus. They are words of sorrow. You didn't come. I asked you to come and you weren't here. And my brother died. What an important concept for us. If you've walked with Jesus very long, you have walked through disappointment when God didn't do what you thought he should do, what I thought he should do. This is part of a follower of Jesus when he says, "I'm not going to do what you ask because I'm doing what the Father asks, and it is for your good. Trust me." I love in these passage that Martha takes her emotions to Jesus. She takes her confusion, she takes her anger, her disappointment, her feelings. She takes them to Jesus. And so we can applaud that in Martha. And we can also do that like Martha. And after she's finished with the question that's been burning on her heart for 4 days, why didn't you come? Let's read what she says in verse 22. "Yet even now I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you." There's a belief here. There's a strong faith that even though you didn't do what I thought you should do, you didn't come when I asked you to come, yet I believe in you. And look at this conversation. She just didn't go to him with her emotions. They had a conversation. And so Jesus says to her in verse 23, "Your brother will rise again." And Martha says, "I know he'll rise in the resurrection of the last day." And then Jesus says to her, he's so clear, he reminds her who he is. And he says, "Martha, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me, even if he dies, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die." And then Jesus asks her a question. Do you believe this? It reminds me of the story also in the book of John, where Jesus gives a really hard message. And it was to a crowd of people, and it said they all left, that they said, "Your message is too hard." And so he looks to his disciples and he says, "Are you going to leave too?" And Peter, gotta love Peter, he says, "Lord, where else would we go? You have the words of life." And so they didn't disagree that that message was hard and they really didn't understand it. Go read the passage. But Peter says, "Your words are life. I'm sticking with you." I've also had those moments. I don't understand what's happening. I don't like what's happening, but I'm sticking with you, Jesus. I'm with you. And so we see this in the story of Martha. She doesn't understand what's happening, but Jesus plainly says, "This is who I am." He grounds her back into who he is. This is the message when we get confused and we get upset and disappointed and all the emotions are in place. We get back grounded. Let me remember who God is. What do I believe? Let's continue in this passage. In verse 28, it says that Martha went back to Mary, and she said, "The teacher's here and calling for you." Verse 29. And as soon as Mary heard this, she got up and quickly went to him. And then here's what's amazing. Verse 32. The exact same words that Martha did. So at his feet, she says, "Jesus, my brother died. If you would have come, he wouldn't have died." And then look at the response of Jesus. In verse 33, it says that when Jesus saw her crying, he was deeply moved in his spirit and troubled. And then the shortest verse in the entire Bible, he wept. He grieved with her. He was so moved by that. This is what Jesus does when we bring our sorrow to him, our confusion, our anger, our just what is going on. He grieves with us. And then Jesus says, "Take me to the tomb." Wow. Ladies, this is an important concept for us. We take Jesus to our place of greatest pain, our place where something or someone has died. Hopes, dreams, all of those things that are hidden in our heart. We all have moments where that thing or that person has died. And Jesus says, "Take me there. I will walk with you to there." And then Jesus does something amazing. But that's in part 3. I look forward to seeing you there in part 3, where everything becomes undone.